Hello, this is Venetia Ramsey from Scrapworks with our preparation video for our Christmas in July 2023. And this is some of the things you can do before we get to class tomorrow. If you are going to participate at a later stage, then just use this video to get some of the preparation work done. I think that if we can get some of this out of the way, tomorrow will go a lot quicker. So our first page that we're going to do is our project 1 is a double page layout with an interactive element. I've already sent you a cutting guide. With your workshop tomorrow, you'll actually get a detailed sketch and guide as to where everything actually goes, what's for left, right, and the flaps and things like that. So for project number 1, I have sent you the cutting guide. I'm using paper, 3 patterns from our Lost and Found collection. Okay, so you just need 3 coordinating patterns if you're not working with this. You will also need to cut out quite a bit of embellishments, so I'm going to use quite a few of these cutter parts like this. You'll need some sentiments. Our patterns have 2 of everything in, so you can cut up the one side and then of the one page, and you can cut up the other side of the other page. And then we'll also need this part to be fussy cut, all of this. And in the essentials pack there's also a fussy cut sheet, so if you can cut all of that out as well. So if you are working with my paper, you're going to cut out this. You'll fussy cut both of these sheets. You'll cut up this, and then we'll keep that for later. Right, to make the inserts for your album, for the page that we're going to create, I've asked you to have 3 album inserts. I'm just going to work with 1 to show you, well, I've got 2 just to show you one side, and you can just repeat the same process on the other side. So you need to cut, we obviously need, because we're using it as a flap, we need 2 sealed sides. So we can just trim off a tiny sliver of this, the part that goes into the album. So I would rather cut it too big and trim a little bit more than cut it too small and I have an open page. So I would say like that, even that is too much, you can then trim off just another tiny little bit. You really just want to be sure that the one side of your page is sealed when you cut it in half now. Okay, so there we go. So I've just cut that off, and I'll put the white paper behind. Maybe you can see. So it is closed, this side is closed, and the other side is closed. Right, then I'm going to cut this piece. So you need to cut a piece that measures 19 centimeters and a piece that measures 11. So I'm going to measure, and I'm going to trim that at 19, like that. Make sure that your open piece, the top is at there, and then I'm going to trim this one to 11. Okay, I find it easier to start in the middle, cut down, especially when you're working with a slippery surface, and then cut to the top. Okay. So I'm just going to move the paper trimmer out the way. Right, so you will have ended up with 2 pieces that's closed on the one side and open on the other. We'll work with the bigger one. Okay, so you need to remember that your inserts, just going to pop the white underneath, go into your album this way, and I want to be able to page through to create my flaps, and then that one's going to go in underneath it like that, with the third one underneath. Okay, so I just want to go get the example. I'm going to have to hold it at a bit of an angle because of the glare, but if you have a look here, what I mean with the interactive elements, so you need to make sure that both holes are facing this way. So the bigger sheet will fold over first. Then the first flap is the 11 centimeter one that's going to go there. And the third flap with our little interactive element is the next one, and then our full one. And that's how you're going to put it together. So you're going to attach the 11 centimeter one to the back of the full one. So if this is the full one and this is my 11 centimeter, it gets attached to the back of a full sheet, and the 19 centimeter one gets attached to the front of one of the full sheets. So if you can just remember that, and when you do your sewing, if you can get it right that way. So if you see here, here's my full sheet with my flap at the back. This is important because of them opening at the top. So you can't put it in and think you're going to pop it into your album like that. It's important that the holes be on the left. You have a big flap, then a little flap. With the next one, the holes are on the left. You have the 19 centimeter flap, then your full 30.5 flap. Okay, I hope that makes sense. So I'm just going to start one with you, and then you can do the other one on by yourself. So this is where you'll need some masking tape. I have made a stitching guide for myself. So I took a piece of A4 paper. I've measured little 1/2 centimeter intervals, and I've made little dots. I'm going to use that as my guide for poking. And then you need some form of something that you can put holes into. So I'm using some foam. And then you need an awl or some sort of piercing tool. You will need your ruler. It will come in handy. Okay, but I for most part use the tape. So what I did is I've put my guide inside my paper for now, just so that I can see where I'm using my paper as to be able to see where the start of the album is. So remember, my 19 centimeter piece is needing to go on the front of this one. So I need to be sure that I'm going to be able to attach it, and I want to get it straight. So I'm lining this up with lining my 19 centimeter piece up with the piece of A4 paper that's in the album, and now I can't, there we go, in the album insert, and I'm going to use some masking tape to join that. So this, I can see where the line is. It just makes it easier if you can kind of see where everything is, and then I'm just going to join it here on the top as well. Okay, and then to help so that it doesn't slip and slide, I'm going to also join it here so that it also helps me get it in straight. So I'm just going to put a little piece of masking tape to hold it in place there, and put a little piece of masking tape to hold it in here. Okay. Oops. Well, I should have first taken my piece of paper out. Oh, no, I can. Right, so I need my A4 sheet to come out first. Okay, so you just need that to come out. And then just secure everything back in place. There we go. Right. It is very hard to make a mark on the plastic. So my suggestion is that you actually use the masking tape as your guide. So I'm going to put a little piece of masking tape. I'll put my paper underneath so you can see. I know the reflection must be terrible. So I'm just going to put a piece of masking tape on the edge of my top insert, so on that cut line. I don't know where that is. And I hope I got it in straight. You can check. No, you can check. Luckily, we can check on the other side. Okay. So it might help to actually put it on a line. So let's use this. Now we've got extra reflection, sorry. So if I put this on my mat, that gives me a nice line to work with. Okay. You can see there's the line. If I turn it this way, it might be easier. So here's the start of my page insert. I'm going to put the masking tape on right flush against that, the open part of my okay. Like that. So now I know that that is flush against the my open line. So obviously I can't stitch right here. I want to stitch in just 1 mil away from that line. And you don't want to go in too deep either, because then you limit the space for your project. So you just want to, I'd say the furthest in you could go is 2 mil. If I stitch there, I'll get it in 2 mil. And then you can draw a line like that. Okay, and then you could easily measure your 0.5 centimeters now, or you could just use the guide that you've made. I put it there and there. See my little dots line up. For me, that's also going to help take a bit of the glare off you. You can easily measure directly onto the masking tape. And that's just going to keep my paper in place so that I'm on that line. Okay. Then you will need your piercing mat and piercing tool. So what I will do is make that first hole and then go back and check that I've got it slightly off the line, because I can still change it now. There we go. That looks a bit better. See, and we can still get away with covering up that first hole, so my suggestion is just to double check. It could be easier to make the marks on your mask directly onto the masking tape, but this works for me. Okay, we'll make it again. Perfect, right on that line. So you're just going to go through now and make your little holes as straight as possible. You don't even have to push too hard. I do suggest though that you can see how it lifts because it's slippery. Hold your page down with your whole hand and then just pierce. Make your little piercing marks. Remember, we're going to sew with an embroidery needle, so if you haven't got the marks, holes all the way through, your embroidery needle will help. And if you missed a hole, I found that I did that when I was doing this, is that I missed a hole or two. And then if you don't want to hand sew it and you are a little bit brave, you can easily do this whole process on a sewing machine. Okay, so there we go. That's the holes done and dusted. Okay. Slightly skew, but either slightly over the line or not, but I think that'll be fine. When you put it into your album, you are barely going to see this. So then I would just remove the masking tape. Okay, then where there's the little, where it's pulled off like that, you can always go back and just clean it up. You can do it before or after you've sewn, it won't matter. Right. Okay, I'll pull them off, the rest of it off afterwards. Then you're going to need some embroidery thread. My suggestion, because I like to lose my needle, is that you actually have a little bowl on your table. So if you put your needle down, put it down inside there so that it's easy to find. All right. I've already threaded the needle because, you know, Murphy's Law, I won't get it threaded while I'm videoing. And I made mine long enough that I don't have to put a knot in, but then I could actually make a loop. So I think it's like 1.5 times. Yeah. I took thread that's 1.5 times the width of your paper, folded it in double, threaded through, and here we go. So we're going to start by putting this one in at the back, go through the front, pull it through the loop, and we can create a nice flat start to the insert. I'm going to put it through the next hole at the back, bring it back down to the front, the second hole on the front. Take it through, put the needle through the third hole at the back, bring it forward and put it through the second hole in the front. Okay, and you are basically going to carry on doing that. So fourth hole at the back, third hole in the front. Right, so I'm quickly going to do that, finish this one, and I will see you in a bit. And there you go, I'm done stitching, so it's nice and neat. We can then remove our masking tape. As I was stitching, I cleaned up the little bits of pieces that got caught on the side there. The ones I missed while stitching, I'll just take them off. I'll just take them off now. And there's that first hole that I made, but once your page is in, you won't even see that. And on the other side, like that. Alright, so there you go. Lift it up so you can see. So now you will cut your black cardstock to 19 centimeters to fit in. You'll try to fit it. If it doesn't fit, you'll just trim a sliver off until it fits in the insert. You'll probably have to take off about 1 mil before it fits in here. But once this is in your album and it folds, turns like that, you will barely even see the stitching. I used black stitching because I have black inserts. For this example, I've used like a maroon, almost as dark as aged mahogany. Okay, so you can use, you're not just limited to one color, you can use whatever color you want. And you can also use it in a way to make the color a feature. All right, so those are your inserts done and dusted. I've given you what you need to cut out. Then I would suggest that you actually prep all your little, if you're using any grey board for the class, I would suggest that you actually prep them with some white paint. The gears, if you're following along, are not necessary because they're going to be dark, but the arrows, I'm using these arrows for project number 1, but while you're prepping these, you may as well do the rest because these we'll use in project number 3. And to do that, it's very simple. We just put some paint on the sheet. You can use, I like to use a brayer. You can use a brush if you like. You can just pick up that paint with your brayer and then just add a thin layer of paint while all your goodies are still in the frame. They're much easier to handle and manage. You're just going to add a thin layer of paint like this. I like to use the brayer because you get no globs of paint in between, like if there's very delicate items on your grey board. You also don't have to get everything covered, you just want to get as much of it covered as possible, but it doesn't have to be perfect. So you just want your paint to be able to grip to the surface quite quickly. There you go. So another trick is there is still a little bit of paint there. I don't want to put more down because there's quite a bit. We can just wet that. Pick that up, and there we go. And that'll just let it go. Give us a little bit more to go a little bit further. Okay, and I don't put any pressure on the brayer when I pick up the paint. It's just a quick roll. Okay. So the gears, I'm going to be using black paint on the gears so we don't have to prep those. If you want to make yours a different color, then you will need to prep them. But that's more or less what I would do. You just clean the paint off your brayer. Quick cleanup. It's quick, it's easy. All done. And then I've got the most of it off. I can do the rest a little bit later. Then clean up my mat. And there we go. So that's the prep work for the next, for project 1 and project 2. Then for project 1 and 3, then for project number 2, I will be using paper from still I'm staying with the Lost and Found, and I'm going to use our Essentials pack. Just get that for you. So I'm going to use the Essentials pack, okay, and the leftover paper from the full pack. And you will also need, if you're going to follow along with me exactly, You will also need our arrows. I'm going to be using these. This is from the Lost and Found collection. These are called That Way, and it's the paper laser cuts. And I'm going to use this side, but if you don't want to, you can easily use that side. And again, if the pattern doesn't suit your page, and we need to use the paper ones because it's so thin, put a layer of paint on and customize them to match your paper. Right, so I think that's all your prep work. I've given you the cutting guides. I've also sent you the cutting and scoring guide for the mini album. I hope that you have lots of work to do. If you're using my collection, you have lots of fussy cutting to do tonight and lots of prep work. So I look forward to seeing you in tomorrow's workshop. Thank you for participating.